I have a call.
Okay,
I have
with
a
Colin
couple
Dodds,
calls.
the Demon Core of Fresh Kills, is with us, winning screenplay. You just called your background. What did you call your background again? The
Oh, that's my smart guy background.
smart guy background. Have you read every book back there?
For the purposes of this interview, yes.
Okay.
No, no.
You're almost there though?
You know what? I get rid of books. I get rid of books either
Yeah.
that I've decided I'm not going to read or books that I really love and I feel like somebody else should have them.
I feel the
Uh,
same way. Yeah.
yeah, so this is like books I mostly liked or really liked and couldn't find a home for,
Yeah.
um, as well as books that I think I'll read soon.
Okay, because I want to talk to you about tone of the script. It's an excellent tone. You kind of pulled it off because it's a mockumentary, but it's also kind of like a alternative history of the
Yep.
subject that you're talking about. Plus, it's a sci-fi film. So you're kind of
Mm.
mixing up a lot of, there's like a soup of screenwriting. You're kind of putting a lot of different genres and mixtures into the soup. And in tone wise, you kind of pulled it off. So
Oh, thank you.
congratulations. It's the
Thanks.
first thing I want to mention.
Yeah, there's a lot of elements here, with alternative history. You want to tell a story that's somewhat plausible. You want to have people who are out there who might be total, tinfoil hat wearing cranks, but you don't want to you don't want to say that. So a
Yeah.
lot of the script goes back and forth between the alternate history and the actual history.
Yeah.
Also, you talk about things like UFOs, talk about places like Staten Island, New York, and I think there's a lot of easy jokes to tell, and I really wanted to not do that, you know. So when you talk about tone, that was something I was very conscious of when I was
So
writing
you
it.
would not cheap humor. It's kind of just it's like it's humor through the storytelling, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Humor and pathos, I guess I'd say. So
So give people a pitch. What's this story about?
so this story, it's the story of two unlikely friends. One of them is a physicist who is on probation. One of them is the commissioner of tourism and morale for Staten Island. And they come together to attempt to rescue a supernatural relic of the Manhattan Project from Fresh Kills, which is the world's largest landfill.
Gotcha. And so what's the alternative history? Like what did you kind of change?
Well, basically, Fresh Kills is not only the world's largest landfill, it's in Staten Island, it's in New York City, and it's the world's largest landfill. And by some measurements, it's the world's largest man-made object. And
Wow.
this, and
And it's
so
called Fresh Kills.
it's called Fresh Kills. The Dutch name for water is kills. So that's where it got its name. It doesn't have to do with murder, but it does sound sinister. Uh, so this is kind of a massive object. This is a massive place with real significance when you think about, society, culture, the environment. A lot of things really come to a head in this one location. It's a place that people studiously ignore, in part because of the smell, in part because it's hard to think about. But another reason is that it's not a great story. The story is that they opened it in 1948 and they started dumping and they promised they'd stop. And they kept pushing the deadline back and back and back until 2001. Now, that's basically the story. It's not a great story. So I was looking at this and I'd always wanted to write about it. And I said, well, wait a second. What if they're not dumping garbage here? What if they're actively trying to bury something?
Oh,
What
yeah.
would be something so
Can,
terrifying?
can we be honest? Like I'm sure certain bodies has been buried there. Like if we're being honest, right?
Yeah, I did a lot of research on it. And yeah, basically the rule the police had was if the body went in the dump within the last 3 days, they had a chance of finding it.
Yeah.
But if they had an informant who said the body went in a dumpster and then the dumpster went to Fresh Kills 2 weeks ago, the police would just say, we're never going to find this body. So
So
they had like virtually a policy around exactly
that's
that.
think about the bodies, right?
Well, the
Not to
story
be
about the
like light on
bodies.
it, but just like
Well, the story about the bodies actually gets a lot darker because after 9/11,
yeah,
that was the recovery site
yeah.
for, the debris from Ground Zero. And I don't know how many victims they identified, sometimes from tiny little particles, but that all happened at Fresh Kills. and
Wow.
that was very controversial at the time.
Why was
Um,
it controversial?
oh, basically because the families didn't want the remains of their loved ones being left at a dump. Um, Especially a lot of the victims of 9/11 lived in Staten Island,
Yeah.
and Staten Islanders hated the dump. They hated it with a passion.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So anyways, so where the alternate history comes in is, what if instead of this being a dumping ground, what if this was a place where the dumping happened to conceal and contain something?
Yeah.
And then the question is, what would they be containing and concealing? And
Maybe
that's
it's
where
not an alternate history,
that,
right?
well, that's what you hope for with these things, is that you can create a plausible narrative, like something that'll carry you all the way through. So that's,
But you're
that's kind
you're
of,
jumping on the conspiracy theory, right? You're making people like think, I guess, like what they,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, conspiracy theorists are in some ways, fantastic fiction writers. But
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
So I've always been drawn to that for that reason,
yeah,
because it's a, conspiracy theory. The word there is a theory, and a theory is an idea that connects all the visual and all the things that we see in the world. And
yeah.
so, yeah, it's an alternate history that works a little bit like a conspiracy theory.
So, okay, so is it there now that it's not there anymore? The killing?
Oh, it's there. It's
Yeah,
there. So they closed the dump in 2011. I mean, sorry, 2010. Excuse me. They closed the dump in 2001.
yeah, you
They
said
reopened
2001.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, they reopened it for a few months after 9/11. They closed it permanently in 2002. Since then, they've been converting it slowly into a park. And and that's really where the screenplay starts, where the movie starts, is the idea, or the conceit is, these filmmakers are making a documentary about Fresh Kills Park.
yeah.
And they start to make it, they start to talk to people who know about it, and they say, actually, the park is just, a thin covering for the Fresh Kills dump. So they learn more about the Fresh Kills dump. And then as they do, somebody informs them the Fresh Kills dump is actually covering up a much bigger secret. And that's sort of the motion of the film. And the park today, I've been out to the park a number of times for scouting, for shooting. A very small part of it is accessible, and you wouldn't know that it was a dump if you hadn't been told. So I'm here in the
Yeah.
northeastern United States, and what the dump looks like is, it looks like a giant bald hill. There's no trees, or very few trees, because they have to cut large plants down to keep the roots from penetrating the garbage and
Mhm.
making it unstable. Um, so that's the only way you'd be able to tell it, is that these hills are totally bare, and you don't get a lot of bare hills in the Northeast.
So are you from Staten Island?
No, no, but I live in Brooklyn, and so it's right across the water
Yeah,
from me.
but it's
Um,
different. Like the mentality. I lived in New York just for a year, so I'm no expert,
oh, okay.
but I lived in Brooklyn, went to school in Manhattan, but
Oh,
you can
yeah.
see
Nice.
the Staten Island is like, from my perspective, was like different. It didn't connect with the other boroughs.
That's true. That's true. It's culturally a little bit different. Politically, it's very different.
Yeah, it's very conservative, right?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They have the district with Staten Island and Southern Brooklyn has, I think, one of New York's only, or has New York City's only Republican congresswoman.
Congressman, yeah. But
Yeah.
that's a guaranteed win, right, for the Republicans.
Well, it is for now. These things are always moving,
No, but
but
I
yeah,
mean, yeah, sorry, I meant in the not too distant, you're right. But
yeah,
it's been for a long time. It's been a guaranteed
yeah,
win for a long time. Yeah.
absolutely. So Staten Island is different in a lot of ways. But it's fascinating, and there is very much an underdog mentality there. There is the sense of being the forgotten borough, I think, is a
Yeah.
phrase that gets used a lot, and a lot of that actually goes back to the dump. The dump was enormous. It affected their physical existence, for decades. The smell and the seagulls and the reputation. It really, it made Staten Islanders incredibly mad, and there were generations of politicians in Staten Island who tried to get this thing closed.
Well, think about it, right? It's like the as Manhattan is basking in their billions, like
Mm.
not millions, billions, and they're
Hmm.
like doing their rich things, right?
Hmm.
Put
Yep.
the let's take the garbage to the island, right? That's sort of
And
the reputation, right?
that's exactly it. And there
Yeah,
and that's part of a bigger history for Staten Island. Before Ellis Island, Staten Island is where the boats stopped, and they let out all their sick passengers in a quarantine hospital.
yeah,
And this was in the 1800s, and the Staten Islanders actually burnt the thing down. The biggest orphanage in New York State was in Staten Island. So
yeah.
there was always this sense of like, the things the city didn't want to deal with would go there.
But then a general consensus, it's also a lot of blue collar workers like firefighters, police officers, and they're making Manhattan work, right? It wasn't for them, that would crumble. So they're helping build
Oh,
this
that's
enterprise.
exactly it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Police, fire, construction.
yeah.
That's the working people of New York City.
It's a blue collar town of the white collar of what is New York City, I guess, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And there are some very nice, very wealthy parts. But yeah, that's true.
I mean general, of course, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so really great idea, and it's like, but it also gives people information because a lot of people outside of Manhattan don't know, outside New York City don't know this, right? So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would say I've lived in the city for almost 30 years now, and when I started researching for this screenplay and this book, I was amazed. I was amazed not just by how much was there, but how much really incredible stuff that you never even like things that are just too bizarre to believe happen there. So it's a really rich ground to work with.
so in terms of like, but making the what makes this sci-fi? Like what do you like fantastical? Like as you said in your
Well,
book.
Well, that's the next part. So
Yeah,
it's the demon core of Fresh Kills. We talked about Fresh Kills. The demon core is the other side of it. And the demon
yeah.
core is actually an object that existed. And basically it was the plutonium that was intended to be used in the fourth atomic bomb. So in 1945, the United States tested one bomb in New Mexico and then dropped two bombs, atomic bombs, in Japan. They had enough material for a fourth bomb,
Okay.
and they never dropped this bomb. They never used this bomb. They kept it in Los Alamos in New Mexico for tests. And the idea, it was a plutonium sphere, and they would test it to see how close they could get it to becoming critical. The point at which it might explode and then pull back. And this would help them design better bombs, plan for transportation things, and so forth.
Yeah.
And in the middle of these tests, two people were killed. Two people were exposed to, off the charts levels of radiation. One of them died in, I think, about 3 weeks. Another one died in about 10 days. And, death from radiation poisoning is probably one of the worst deaths imaginable. Anyway, and that gave this plutonium sphere the name the Demon Core. Now, how these things start to connect, the Demon Core and Fresh Kills, is when they were testing the atomic bomb and when they shot off the first atomic bomb, they interfered, on a subatomic level
Mhm.
with the structures and the activities of these subatomic particles and with almost the nature of matter itself. And in doing so, they awakened matter. They awakened it and it became aware. It became aware of what it was. It became aware of what was around it, and it became aware of the fact that it had been messed with. It had been messed with in a very serious way, and it
Mhm.
approached the scientists at Los Alamos with great curiosity. And through a series of paranormal seeming events, it attempted to communicate with them.
Mhm.
And the scientists, being curious people that they are, were very into this. They were having a conversation, and the army found out about it. They shut it down. They stopped the conversation, and then they sealed the demon core, which all the phenomena seem to center on,
Yeah.
inside of an impermeable block, and then had the block sent to Fresh Kills.
Gotcha.
where for the next 50 years they buried it in as much garbage as they possibly could.
Well, if you're gonna bury something, that's a good place to bury it, right?
Plain view, but nobody wants to see it. Nobody's going
Yeah.
to go looking for it there. Yeah.
And who's gonna jump into that, right?
Well, that's the rest of the story. The story is
Yeah,
about two guys who decide to do exactly that.
exactly. That's exactly it. Sorry, I kind of set you up there, but basically,
Yeah.
that's visually interesting too, right? Because
Yeah. Yeah.
we don't have to smell it as an audience; we just have to experience the visuals, right? So,
Exactly. Yeah. No, but the smell is, you still do get a little bit of the smell there. I was out filming near one of the mounds 2 weeks ago, and I was standing in the middle of a salt marsh. It was low tide, so you could kind of go out on the marsh grass.
mhm.
And oh my goodness, yeah, you could really smell it. It was like a
Really,
sulfurous, acrid. Yeah, yeah.
you
So
think it's ever going to go away?
well, that's a question. In a way, that's like the $1,000 question because, this is a tremendous amount of land in Staten Island. It's accessible by highway. Um, Between when they closed it and 9/11, one of the local politicians recommended they move the New York Jets stadium there. But
Okay.
yeah, but I mean, it's really hard to say. There were archaeologists who went to Fresh Kills in the 80s
Yeah,
just to
that's
dig
actually not
down.
a half bad idea putting a sports stadium there.
Yeah. Well, based on what I've learned about landfill, it's not stable ground. You can't build much on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Even if you
It's
put a load of concrete on top of it, it's
I mean, you be my guest.
yeah,
I don't know. I don't think so because yeah, even without anything being built on top, you do read occasionally about these avalanches at landfills because the garbage is not it's not an even substance, it's
yeah,
got pockets of gas. They're going to be draining methane and
yeah.
this fluid called leachate out of some of the bigger sites for another 30 years.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like that's the other thing that you're kind of in the subtext of your script is about everybody's got a dump. Everybody's got trash somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Like humans, we destroy this. Like I'm not getting on a soapbox, but
Mm.
our waste is it's unbelievable, and it's like it's got to go somewhere, right?
Yep. And now, so I forget, are you in Toronto? Is that
I'm
right?
in Toronto, yeah, yeah.
Do you know where your garbage goes?
I'm from Niagara Falls, and I knew where my garbage went when I was in Niagara Falls, but I
Okay.
honestly
Okay.
don't know where it goes in Toronto.
Yeah, yeah. I was working with somebody on the movie, and he was from outside of Chicago, and we were going out to the Fresh Kills, and
Yeah,
I said, "Oh, what's Chicago's big dump?" And he had no idea.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's so vast. It's such a huge space. But yeah, in Niagara Falls, I knew exactly where it was.
Okay.
We used to talk about it as kids going to the dump, right?
Yeah, once in a while, I remember that we'd have some big item. We'd drive out to the dump.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
it was interesting for us. But then now you're thinking about it, it's kind of yeah, it's
kind of
kind of gross.
nuts. You go there, like you go to the dump as a kid. I remember going with my mother, and I was like maybe 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And you find stuff like a steering wheel, and I'd be like, "Oh, can I have this?"
Yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah. You went with your mom because I was thinking
yeah,
it's a very male dominated environment.
I have no
Yeah.
idea what we were doing at the dump. I don't
Yeah.
remember. Yeah,
No, no, but that's what I mean. But that's the extra subtext of your script is like, yeah, this is a thing, and it's like nobody really talks about it too, right? Like nobody. The last time I heard of the dump was I came here maybe like 2 decades ago. Like something that nobody, you know what I mean? Nobody talks about it, but it goes somewhere, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's the way that people get rid of things, the things they reuse, the things that they don't. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it is fascinating. So, okay, so what got you into writing scripts? I know you have you have a financial job, I guess, right?
Yeah, yeah. I've worked in and around financial services. I think largely as a function of living in New York all these years. What got me into writing about this was I was fascinated with the place.
Yeah,
I've been fascinated by it for a long time, and there's something about it. There's like something that almost pushes you away from it when you look at it, kind of turns your eye away. Whatever attracts your eye, it's the opposite of that. And I kind
yeah.
of took that as a challenge. And then I think one day it was just, the idea got flipped on its head, and suddenly it all made sense. And yeah, it flowed from there. Um, but I love the idea of looking at things that you're not supposed to look at.
That's a great line. I like that. But you've written novels, right?
I've written about 10 novels. Yep.
And what are the novels about?
They vary. I would say the early ones were more literary fiction. The more recent ones have been more speculative fiction, science fiction. There's another alternate history I wrote, which is told from the point of view of one of Santa Claus's elves, which kind of tells the inside story of what happened at the North Pole since World War II until the present. Um, that was my most recent one. Another one was a near future story about a bunch of friends who, geez, oh man, it's been a while since I had the right log line for that one.
Yeah.
But
No, yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's about a bunch of friends whose one of their friends dies and comes back to life, and one of them starts a cult, one of them starts a technology company, one of them kind of keeps muddling through doing what he's doing, and it's sort of their story.
Gotcha. So there's always a supernatural or kind of fantasy kind of elements.
I think often, yeah. I mean, I appreciate literary fiction, but I also get frustrated with it. I think early on I wrote these, coming of age stories
Sure.
or more straightforward literary fiction stories. But the fact is, you're writing fiction. You can make anything happen.
Yeah.
Why not go for it? So yes, so I think I have tended toward more speculative kind of wild stories.
And
So
did you ever think about writing something about the financial industry since you work in that?
not really, maybe over time. For a while, I worked for this large firm where I wasn't allowed to write about it, where I specifically had to avoid writing about it.
Sure.
Um, we'll see down the road. I definitely do have experience with it, but right now it doesn't appeal to me, and I'm out of that job, so I don't want to think about it if I don't
Oh,
have to.
gotcha. No, because it got me
Yeah.
thinking about what you said because a lot of people don't really know how the financial industry works. Like, what is it? Like 10, 15% are on the stock market, like of human beings, right? Like of Americans, right? So they keep talking about the stock market every day, but
Mm,
most people really don't understand how it works and what it's about, right? Because most people are not on it.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's a lot of what I do as a freelance writer is I explain this stuff.
Yeah. But
But I
that's what I
think
mean. But it's like you're looking at it's sort of what you said. It's like you're like looking at something that people don't look at, right? So
yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. And one reason they don't look at that is that it can be incredibly boring. It's
or
complex and
scary. I
boring.
think it scares people more
Oh,
than it bores
sure.
people, right?
Yeah, yeah. You start to talk about things like national debt in the tens of trillions of
I think it's
dollars.
even more closer than that. It's just like there's an insecurity with money and like about people who like push things. They're gonna push that stock here and that. I think there's an insecurity with people who don't really know that. They don't really understand it and they get scared of it, I think.
Sure. Yeah. No, and there is room for a story to be told there, but it has to have
Yeah.
it's hard to tell these stories because they're abstract when you talk about finance. And
No, I
so,
know, but
like you
it
think
seems
about
like
like
a big scam.
movies.
No, I'm more in I know I kind of know it like somewhat, right? But
Sure, sure. But
yeah.
that's the thing, right? Is like how do you illustrate that in a visual medium?
Yeah.
Um, you know, what was the one, The Big Short? Remember that where they kept
Yeah,
trying to come up
they
with
did a good
Anthony
job with that.
Bourdain and
Yeah.
yeah, Wall Street. That movie. In the end, that movie was pretty hard to follow.
But in Big Short is that there was emotional context to it because everybody kind of suffered from 2008, the 2007 housing crisis.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
somewhat everybody was kind of like was affected by it in some way, right? So there was,
yeah,
but then people didn't understand it, and then that kind of they kind of explained it in a kind of funny way.
yeah, yeah. I think yeah, and the way that they did it was they explained things very much head on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then the people who are like ahead of it, they kind of knew it
yeah.
was going to happen, right?
That's what it was all about. Was the
Yeah.
people who were able to short these companies and short these securities.
You
Yeah,
kind
I
of
mean,
think something like that's happening right now. You know what I mean?
it's always happening. It's always happening. It's
No,
really, I
but like
mean,
there's a big because it's like they've been manufacturing these stocks with AI that kind of reminds me of the internet stocks of 25 years ago, right? So
Yeah, and that's going to crash. I mean, there's a lot of factors at work, but yeah, that's definitely something that could crash. I don't know. I mean, the thing is, you talk about the financial crisis, and when it comes to these bubbles, you can always say, well, if you don't play, you don't lose. But in 2008, that was a time I think when people really did lose, and I knew someone who was a mortgage broker then, and he was selling people mortgages, something called liar's loans, where you didn't have to show any income, and you could take out this enormous loan, which no bank in the world would ever give you,
no,
to buy a house that you couldn't afford. And the thing was, it had a low introductory interest rate, and then it went up, and then you're betting on the idea that you're going to get very rich very soon, and you're going to lose your house and
yeah.
wreck your credit, and
Well, that's one of the like I'm being general, of course. That's one of the
yeah,
Americans' problem is that they all think they're going to be rich, and they vote, and they do everything like eventually I'm going to be rich, and
yeah.
it's their mindset, and that's the analogy right there. It's like eventually I'm gonna figure it out, and I'm gonna make seven figures and be okay, right? Because that's what's ingrained in the American system, right? So.
I think Upton Sinclair, maybe 100 years ago, said there are no poor people in America, only temporarily embarrassed millionaires.
Yeah, but that's not an honest statement, right? So
No,
no, you know what I mean, right? It's like
no,
that's the
it was
thing.
a tongue-in-cheek statement. Yeah,
No, no, of
yeah,
course I know,
yeah.
what I'm trying to say is it's interesting. It's always that kind of like that's what I don't know. I'm Canadian, so it's like the
Mm,
education system where like I talk to like I'm a border kid in Niagara Falls. I went to school in the United States, so I kind
mm,
of know a lot of people. It's like that. It seems like their education system is that they're ingrained in that kind of like yeah, you can make it. You know that
hmm.
yeah
I think so, absolutely. And there's on the downside of that is that there's a desperation and a self-hatred that can come from it. But the upside is optimism. And it's the optimism that attracts people from all over the world. So
yeah, and
it's a
people buy
two-sided coin.
on credit, right? They like okay, I'm gonna lease that car, and then event within 4 years I'm gonna be able to buy that car because they think they will, right? But they're not
Mhm.
going to, but they think they will.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah. Right.
it's a hell of a place.
It is. No, it's interesting, but you're onto something. Like it's like you're because you're doing the social commentary in this script, and I'm assuming you did that in your other stories as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's always there. It's always there, definitely.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and I've actually started to, speaking of unreasonable optimism
Yeah.
slash desperation, uh,
The movie
I've actually
industry. Yeah.
I've started to film the movie. I've
Oh,
decided to dive in.
wow.
Yeah, I wrote another screenplay in 2025. It was a horror film, and it won a couple of awards.
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, that's great. What can I do with it?" And I brought it over here. I brought it over there. Really didn't get anywhere with it. And having an unfinished screenplay, it's like having half of something. You don't really have something, you have half of it. So when I wrote this, I wanted to write it in a way that I could potentially produce it. And that was one reason I did it as a mockumentary, because when you think about the camera setups
Sure.
and the
It doesn't have to be
flexibility that,
pretty all the time, right?
yeah, it doesn't have to be pretty all the time. You don't need the world's greatest camera. You
Yeah.
don't need multiple cameras. You can work with actors when they're available.
That's
There's only
great.
one scene with two actors in the same place. So, yeah.
So you started filming it. You got actors
I started filming. Yeah, we had one of the main characters out in Staten Island, and we were shooting all over the place for 2 days.
for the last like so then do you have a production schedule? Do you want
I have a production schedule in my
yeah.
mind.
Okay.
It's there's so much
You
that
do
goes.
work in finance.
Right? Yeah, exactly. That was a good non-answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to get it done by May of 2027
That's
is my
amazing.
production. And I'm being very loose and very flexible. There's a
Gotcha.
million things that have to happen.
Yeah.
And the way that I'm doing it, they don't have to happen in a particular order exactly.
Yeah.
So I put something on Backstage just Monday, and now I'm starting to get some actors in. This is a very small production, and I
Yeah.
want to make sure I'm working with actors who kind of get it and won't feel too insulted if they're being filmed with an iPhone at a dump.
That's amazing. Good for you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. I
Right?
appreciate it. Wish me luck. I'm going to need
And your
it.
family supports you?
Yep, yep. Yeah, I have an incredible wife, and my two kids want to get involved. My daughter helped me with some of the special effects,
That's
and
great. Are
yeah.
they, how old are they?
My daughter's 10, my son is 5, and my wife probably wouldn't want me
Your wife wouldn't want you to say what?
to say her age.
Oh no,
It's,
I'm not talking about
no,
your
I know,
kids.
I'm
Yeah.
joking. I'm just joking. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Uh,
Yeah. So your
yeah.
hands are full. Like I have two young kids, so I get it. So
Oh, yeah. How old are yours?
9 and 7.
Okay. Oh, wow. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Uh, they fight a lot.
No, they get along great.
Oh,
They're the COVID kids, so they basically like they
oh,
saw each
okay.
other every day, so they're like best friends.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear
Yeah, yeah. No, they're like I heard these stories, but not that
it.
they don't like they're not best buddies all the time. They have conflict, but it's like
Okay.
they enjoy each other's company. I guess that's the best way to put it.
That's fantastic. Oh, I'm
Very
glad to
different
hear it.
people too. It's amazing how your
Yeah.
kids are so different, right?
Oh, I know. They're born with their personalities.
Yeah, it's amazing. All right, man. Well, congratulations on everything. I wish you the
Yeah.
best success, and let's talk again when the
Let's do
movie's
it.
made. Keep in touch. I want to see this movie when it's done.
Okay, we'll do. And drop me a line when the podcast comes out.
Right? I will, of course. Yeah.
Okay,